Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Ladies, make a circle. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Nityananda, 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 Nityananda. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai, 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 Nitai Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Jaya Sati Nandana, Jaya Sati Nandana. Whoa, Jaya Sati Nandana, Jaya Sati Nandana. Jaya Sati Nandana, Gaura Hari. Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hari. Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hari. Jaya Sati Nandana Gaura Hare. Jaya Sati Nandana Gaura Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Prabhupada.
Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol.
Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Jai Jai. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai Gopal Jai Jai. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Go to Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jaya Kishore Kishori. Kishore, 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 Kishore. Jai Kishore, 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 Jai Kishore, Kishore. Jai Jagannath. Jagannath, Baladev Jai, Subhadra. Jaya Godan Nitai, Godan Nitai, Godan Nitai, Jai Godan Nitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada.
जय गौर प्रेमानंदे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रागाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमाधि डिवाइन ग्रेस अभयचरणारविंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रागाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमाधि डिवाइन ग्रेस शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णवृंद की नमाचार्य शिल हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तविंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड श्री गिरि गोवर्धन धाम की वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगामय जमुनामय की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की समवेता गौर भक्तविंद की श्री श्री किशोर किशोरी की श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र सुदर्शन की श्री श्री गौर निताय की कलयुग पावन युग धर्म श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की श्री हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlada Daine. Hiranyakashipu Rakshaha. Srilatanka Nakhalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yamita so Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade. O Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshavadita Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. Jaya Narasimha Dev, Jaya Narasimha Dev, Jaya Narasimha Dev, Jaya Narasimha Dev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj.
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad.
Jaya Nara Hari, Jaya Nara Hari, Jaya Nara Hari, Jaya Nara Hari. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद।
Hare Krishna. So we welcome all of you this evening. Today is a very special day because today is, what is today? Today is Nirjala Ekadashi festival, Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. So I know most of you are fasting, but what a wonderful day and wonderful evening for us to absorb in the pastimes of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. So to share his heart and realization with us, we have His Holiness Srila Candramauli Swami Maharaj ki. Candramauli Maharaj doesn't need an introduction because he is a very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada and very dear to the congregation in Chicago because he spent more than 2 decades as a resident sannyasi, very, very dear to all the devotees who are here. So again, we would like to welcome and thank Maharaj for giving his time. He's been here for a week and today he decided to come here to our temple and grace us with his special mercy and blessings. So again, Maharaj, thank you so much. I'm very grateful that you came and we let us welcome him again with a loud Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj.
We'll begin with one bhajan. We're all familiar with this bhajan. It was actually a favorite of His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. So much so that when he was departing the world, he asked that this bhajan be sung. And the name of the bhajan, of course, maybe some of you are not familiar. You can follow along on the phone. It's called Nama Kirtana, and we know it as Yasomati Nandana. So we'll begin by glorifying. This particular bhajan is simply the names of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna in Sri Vrindavan Dham. So if you have your phones, we don't have a board, do we, that we can actually post it. I think there was a board here one time where they used to have the actual bhajan written on the board. I'm pretty sure it was here when I was here last lifetime. These cartos are like handcuffs, you know. I need something that I can move. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Is there some place you can display it? Worry. Okay. I request another set if you have. Thank you very much. If your phone rings during the class, you have to sponsor the next Sunday feast, which is a very great honor anyway. So. Yasomati Nandana Brajavara Nagara Gokhura Anjana Ha 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 ha. Yasomati Nandana Brajavara Nagara Gokhura Anjana Hana. Gopi Paranandanam Madhanam Manohara Gopi Paranandanam Madhanam Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidhana Kaliya Damona Vidhana. Hey, Hamala Harinam Amiya Vilasa. Hamala Harinam Amiya Vilasa. Vipina Purandara Navinana Gharabara Vamsi Vadana Suvasa Gharabara Vamsi Hey, hey, Rajadana Falan Sudakulana Sanan Rajadana Fan Sudakulana Sana Anhanta Gurana Rakuhala Anhanta Gurana Rakuhala Hep Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govindam Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Hey, Sundarananda Gopala. Oh, Jamuna Taptachara Gopi Vasanohara. Jamuna Taptachara Gopi Vasanohara. Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Krishna Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Hey Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natta Bharati Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natta Bharati Bhakti Vinoda Sraya Hey Srila Bhakti Vinoda Sraya Oh Yasomati Nandana Bhajabaranagara Gokula Hanjan Hey, Hamala Harinam Amiyavi Lasaha Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Jamuna Taptachara Gopi Vasanohara Hey Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Nattavara Hey Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Oh Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Go to Hari. Yasomati Nandana Brajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana. I'm not coming. His mother calls him. I want to play. So beautiful bhajan. It's simply the different names of Krishna related to his different pastimes in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Umagyan Timidandasya Gira Jana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesa Sunyavari Pastyatya Satarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Be'evacha Vatitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnave No Namo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada. So, how much do we know about Prabhupada? Very little, actually. Practically nothing. Such a great personality came into this world. But actually, sometimes it is understood that Prabhupada came from India at a certain time, came to the Western countries and began a worldwide movement. He was just another of a great sadhu that came from India. But actually, he's outside of that category. He's a person that was actually predicted by 3 different predictions prior to his appearance in this world. And the first one that we know of is from one particular Purana called the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, which is spoken by Krishna himself. Lord Krishna is speaking to the personification of Mother Ganga, Ganga Devi, and he says, "My dear Ganga, within 5,000 years, my mantra Upasaka will come, and he will take the chanting of my holy name around the world." Mantra Upasaka means one who is the distributor of the holy name. That was the first prediction that we know of that was spoken more than 5,000 years, at least it was written 5,000 years ago. And then the second prediction was actually by Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's speaking to Sri Narada Muni, and he's saying that soon a great personality will come. He will be my Senapati Bhakta. Senapati means general, the best of all bhaktas. And he will come and bring the holy name everywhere and anywhere throughout the world. And then the third prediction was by Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur in the early part of the 1900s, where he actually was even before then. He was looking into the area which is we now know as the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. It's called the Yoga Peeth. And he had a vision. It wasn't a dream, it was an actual vision. In that vision he saw people from the brown race, the black race, the red race, the yellow race, all the races, the white race, holding hands and dancing, singing Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana. So these three predictions are recorded as very much the heralding of Srila Prabhupada's coming into this material world. But even more so, not so long ago, maybe almost 20 years ago, I had the opportunity to come to a program in Mayapur. Was in the room of Srila Bhakti Chiru Swami Maharaj. And he had gathered all of the senior, not senior, but all Prabhupada disciples to have a little sangha and talk about Prabhupada. So there was more than 100 Prabhupada disciples there, both men and women. And everyone was giving an opportunity to speak a little bit about their experiences with Prabhupada. And one person who spoke, and he just changed the whole thing. And he was saying, I was with Prabhupada, I was massaging Prabhupada. It wasn't Shruta Kirti, it was another senior Prabhupada disciple. He said, I was massaging Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, when you were with him, he was always talking either about Krishna, about devotional service, or about how to spread devotional service, creating new ideas on how to bring Krishna consciousness to the world. Prabhupada was never quiet, but this particular time he was exceedingly quiet. In other words, it was unusual for him to be quiet so much. And the massage was going on, and Prabhupada broke the silence. In a very mystical way, it was like he penetrated the silence with a statement that after we heard this, it was really amazing. He said, I was with Krishna in the spiritual world, and Krishna told me, go to the material world and preach. And I said to Krishna, material world? Horrible place. Horrible place. Prabhupada said, I didn't want to go. But then Krishna said, no, you go. You write some books, and I'll protect you. So Krishna wanted me to come. And he came right at the time when there was a lot of turmoil, both especially within the United States, and especially in other major countries around the world. People were revolting against the ways of living that their ancestors, their parents were teaching. It was like rebel for the sake of rebellion. And people were throwing out all social, political, whatever values they grew up with, and people were just trying to explore other areas of how to live life. And that was the heart of what we call the hippie movement at that time. It was quite turmoil. There was a lot of dissensions, revolution, riots within the streets. I don't know, many of you weren't even here at that time. Maybe some of you were. But it was a turbulent time. Chicago was actually one of the most turbulent places, too, also. There was a lot of demonstrations. People were taking over college buildings, blocking the doors and holding stand-ins, shutdowns. It was really, police were everywhere. And actually there was riots where police actually were shooting students. That happened in Kent State in Ohio. So Prabhupada came at that time, and people were also looking towards Eastern spirituality for answers to life. So it became popular, Eastern spirituality. And Prabhupada was you might say, the personification of that knowledge. And he came, and as he describes, when I came to the United States, he said, before I actually came to the United States, I was thinking, where should I go to try to, what we say, fulfill the order of my spiritual master to spread Krishna consciousness? And then he said, well, many of my godbrothers, they had gone to London, Germany, even Myanmar, which was Burma at the time, many places, and they all come back with very little results. So pretty much they failed. And Prabhupada was thinking, let me go to a new place. If I fail, I want to fail in a new place. He mentions that. So he chose what was known as the capital of Maya, at the time, New York. And Srila Prabhupada said New York was 50 years ahead in Kali Yuga than all the rest of the world. Now it's more than 50 years ahead. Anyway, it was a bastion of sense gratification and entertainment. And so Prabhupada came there, and he was thinking, and he also spoke about it, that I was looking for some first-class men to begin my movement of the Vedic culture. But I couldn't find any first class. I couldn't find any second class. Only third class and fourth class. But then he said, I found one first class. And he said, that was Damodar. And then later we found out that was Sarup Damodar Goswami Maharaj, who was at that time he was from Manipur. And he was a scientist. He actually joined Prabhupada's movement at the very beginning in California. So Prabhupada had to work with people who were just coming, and he started preaching in New York, got a preaching center, we all know, 26 2nd Avenue. And he was holding Bhagavad Gita classes in the evenings on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then people were coming off the streets, a little curious about what this place was. And Prabhupada was speaking about Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes he would even speak about Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was way beyond everyone's understanding. But people liked Prabhupada. There was something about him that they were attracted, that even though many of them didn't understand what Prabhupada was saying, they liked him. There was something about him that was very attractive for everybody. And Prabhupada used to run the programs where he would cook a feast, and a small feast for the guests who would come. And they would come, he would give a lecture, there would be a little chanting, and then also he would serve the feast himself, by himself. And then after everything was over, the guests would leave, and Prabhupada would clean up. One day, after doing this for some time, after finishing the evening, Prabhupada started to clean up, and two boys who came to the program said, Swamiji, can we help you clean up? Prabhupada said, oh, I was waiting for someone to ask. He never asked. But when people came forward, he accepted that. So that was Prabhupada. He just wanted to somehow or other invite them in a way without putting anything upon them so they could learn the science of Krishna consciousness through the philosophy and especially through kirtan. So Prabhupada's life was not easy. He had to undergo so much difficulties. We know he had 2 heart attacks on the boat coming over. He had the 3rd heart attack in 1967 after being here for a year and a half. And the doctor, of course the astrologer also, he went to an astrologer. Astrologer said to him, that was your time to go. But Prabhupada said, I prayed. My movement has not begun. Please give me more time, Krishna. And devotees were also praying, so we know that Krishna gave him 10 more years. And in those 10 years, Prabhupada was like on fire. Preaching, traveling, writing books, sending devotees to different countries around the world. Krishna consciousness was spreading like wildfire. And Prabhupada had to train most of us because we weren't so much well-versed in the whole science, nor the behavior, the etiquette of what it means to practice, Vaishnava culture, Vaishnava behavior. So Prabhupada was like mother, father, guru, teacher, everything. And in those days, at least in the early days, the intimacy was very much there. People could speak to Prabhupada. They would go visit him. He would take time. He would answer their questions, or he would just speak something about Krishna consciousness. So it was very, very personal, very intimate. Of course, after the movement started to spread and more centers were going, and Prabhupada was less available, and he was traveling and preaching and making devotees and opening up temples. And then, of course, he started to send devotees to countries outside of America. And he sent one 19-year-old boy whose name was Shivananda. You can still meet him. He's in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was 19 years old. Prabhupada said, you go to Germany and preach, all by himself. And he went. And with a pair of kartals, he sat down in one, public square and started to chant. And people started to come, and that's how the German Yatra started to spread. So Prabhupada didn't give much training, but people who came to Prabhupada wanted to do anything for Prabhupada, anything that they could do to serve him. And they were always eager. I hope Prabhupada asks me to do something. And if they didn't, he didn't. Sometimes they would ask Prabhupada, is there anything we could do for you? So Prabhupada was, he had that Shakti where when you were with him, you felt like the whole world just stopped and all you could be with. His presence was so, what we say, so overpowering that he would just draw you into his energy. When I'll just fast forward a little bit about one particular story in Prabhupada's life. And this was a common thing, that when Prabhupada would fly into a particular city, devotees who were there in that city, they would come to the airports. In those days, the airports were open. And so it was more like public ground. So they would bring kirtan into the airports. And they would be chanting and dancing inside the airports at the chagrin of the organizers in the airports. Sometimes they told us to be quiet. We did for a few minutes, but then that was it. And one time, what was it? This is an interesting story because it has a very powerful message to it. Prabhupada came with his servant, Shruta Kirti. And then, of course, everyone was waiting. The kirtan was going on in the terminal. And then everyone was waiting for Prabhupada to come. So as soon as Prabhupada came, the kirtan just exploded. And devotees were jumping, dancing, rolling on the ground, literally crying. They had so much attraction for Srila Prabhupada that they couldn't control their emotions. They had so much love for Prabhupada. And so Shruta Kirti, he's with Prabhupada, and he's watching how all of the devotees are receiving Prabhupada with such emotional feelings that he's thinking, boy, this is amazing. So Prabhupada went back to his place, and Shruta Kirti was massaging. He tells the story. And he said to Prabhupada at one time, your devotees, your disciples have so much love for you, but I don't have that. And Prabhupada didn't say anything. He remained quiet. And then he continued to massage Prabhupada. Prabhupada would take his massage in the morning. Prabhupada's schedule was amazing. You couldn't keep up with it. He would go to bed between 10:30 and 11 in the evening. And then he would get up at 12 or 12:30, sleep for an hour and a half. And then he would start translating the Bhaktivedanta purports, or creating the Bhaktivedanta purports, after reading from the works of the Acharyas, what they had said about the different verses, and Prabhupada would add his own realizations to those verses. Because Prabhupada knew us Westerners couldn't understand these scriptures, so he had to break it down and make it more easily understood. And he did that. So then he would translate to about 4 in the morning, right through the night when everyone was sleeping. And then at 4, he would chant his rounds. Prabhupada always chanted his rounds. And at 6 o'clock, he would, with some of his leading disciples and others, they would go on the morning walk. And Prabhupada would talk about something on the morning walk. There were many morning walks in Chicago. Prabhupada liked Chicago. He likes Chicago. He came in 1974. He came in 1975. And I'm not sure if he came again, but at least those 2 years he came. I'll tell one story about Chicago a little later. So when Prabhupada would be taking his massage, they would be reading the letters that the devotees wrote. And Prabhupada would be dictating the responses, and they would be typing them up, and he would send out the letters. So even while he was getting his massage, he was answering his letters. And then that would take it up to around lunchtime, and then Shrutakirti would leave and arrange for Prabhupada's lunch. And Prabhupada would take his afternoon bath and come back and get ready for lunch. So this was going on, and then Prabhupada was sitting there. I went to the Los Angeles temple one time, and they showed me where Prabhupada took his afternoon lunch. There was a little corner in the temple that there was a chair there, and it was facing the wall. And Prabhupada would sit in that chair, face the wall, and eat prasadam. He would never talk when he was eating prasadam because he understood that Krishna has come in the form of prasadam, so he would honor prasadam like that. So this time, when he was sitting there, Shrutakirti had come in, brought in his plate, left, and then when Prabhupada was finished, he had a bell. He would ring the bell. And then Shrutakirti would come to take the plate. So this time, when Shrutakirti came in, of course, he paid his obeisances. The devotees always paid their obeisances when they saw Prabhupada going in or going out. So as soon as he got up, Prabhupada said to him, "Do you like your service?" And Shrutakirti said, "Oh, yes, Prabhupada, very much." He said, "That is love. That is love." Jai Shri Shri Kishori Kishori Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Prabhupada said, that is love. To serve is love. He said, yes, it's nice. You can chant, dance, and take part in kirtan. But what service are you doing? What is your service? He said, I've come to teach you to engage in Krishna's service. And everyone, he said, should be doing some service. He said, that's how you show your love, by service. To serve the Lord, to serve the Vaishnavas, to serve the spiritual master, to serve the mission of Lord Chaitanya. This, as Prabhupada indicated, is the indication of how we show our love by our service. That's one particular story. There are so many different episodes in the life of Srila Prabhupada. Some of them were quite amazing. The devotees in America, he said, you American devotees, he said, you're coming from the best country in the world, so you should do something big. Nothing small. And he would always, he would give us services to do at different projects, and then he would come and add another project to it. And the devotees would say, Prabhupada, yes, that's nice, but which service should we stop to do that? He said, what do you mean stop? You add this one. He never said you should give up something and then you take on another one. So Prabhupada kept us busy in devotional service. And therefore we had no time for Maya. No time for Maya. So that was Prabhupada. And he could do more service than all of us put together. As I was explaining, when he would come to the temple in the morning, after taking his morning walk, he would greet the deities at 7 and accept Guru Puja. After Guru Puja, he would give class. After class, he would go back to his room and he would take some breakfast. Prabhupada's breakfast was some fruit, some fried chickpeas, sometimes fried cashews, and with deep fried cashews and ghee. And he liked sandesh. He said Sandesh, and he also added Rasgula. He said, these are not sweets, they're tonic. Sandesh and Rasgula, he liked them. And every morning he would have, mostly it was Sandesh he liked. And so then after he'd take his breakfast, he would rest for about an hour. He never slept, but he just rested. After his hour, then he would get a massage for 2 hours, answer letters, get up to lunch. After lunch, then he would just preach, travel, meet devotees, have programs. So he was on fire. Prabhupada knew, he said, he knew that he didn't have much time. After his third heart attack, it was a warning that, he could leave at any time. So he was using every bit of time to spread Krishna consciousness. And this Krishna consciousness, especially in America, spread so fast that even people in government, there was one senator, he said, if this Hare Krishna movement continues to spread, in 10 years it'll take over the government here in America. Yeah, that's what that's how, temples were opening. This was one of them. So many temples, huge temples, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. Yeah. So many other temples around the country were opening, devotees were coming in, books were going out. It was the Hare Krishna explosion. It was really powerful. And Prabhupada was there. And he wasn't just in the background watching things happen. He was conducting everything. He was leading everything. Although he was like 75 years old, we all know he began his movement here in the West at 70. How many of you are over 70? You're not going to raise your hand. One, I'm raising my hand. Yeah. So are you thinking of starting a worldwide movement at 70, traveling around the world? Think about it. That's not easy for anyone to take on that when you say. But Prabhupada, he was from another world. He was from the spiritual world. He came into this material world. There was one story when he was in London. One of his prominent female disciples at that time was Jamuna. Jamuna had so much love for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada really appreciated Jamuna. She's the one that sang that Govindam Adi Purusham Tammaham Bhajami. When she recorded that, and George Harrison arranged for that recording, when Prabhupada heard that, he said, we should play that in all of our temples to greet the deities. And then some of the men complained, that's a Mataji singing. And Prabhupada said, never mind, just play it. She sang so beautifully. So still today, we greet the deities every day in the morning with that particular. Prabhupada loved that. And if you don't play it, watch out. Prabhupada wanted that in every temple, and it's still going on. So, yeah. So one time he was with Jamuna in London, and it was interesting. Prabhupada used to go on a morning walk every day, no matter where he was in the world, no matter what the climate was. One time he was in Switzerland. The devotees had arranged for him to go to a place called St. Helena. And when Prabhupada got there, they put him in a hotel, and the place was covered with snow. And Prabhupada couldn't take his morning walk. So what he did, he took his morning walk in the hotel room, corridor. He was walking back and forth in the corridor. And the only light was a push-button light. You push the button, the lights go on, it's on a timer, and it goes off. And Prabhupada was using his cane and pushing the lights, and it just going back and forth. After a while, being there, he said, this is not St. Helena, it's St. Hell, he called it. It was just covered with snow. And Prabhupada couldn't go out, so that didn't last so long. So one time when he was with Jamuna, they were on a morning walk. It was in Tittenhurst at John Lennon's estate. And they were walking in the early morning through this estate. Guru Das, you can see, he actually filmed this. And it's just Prabhupada and Jamuna, just the two of them. That's all. Prabhupada's walking with his favorite disciple. And she at one point thought, I have to walk behind Prabhupada. I want to walk in his footsteps. Wherever he steps, I'm going to step. So she's thinking like that. So Prabhupada's walking, and then she's following, and she sees her own footsteps, but she can't find Prabhupada's. And she's thinking, he's walking, but there's no footprints. And then at one point, she just had to ask, Srila Prabhupada, I'm trying to walk in your footsteps, but I don't see any. Prabhupada said, that will be revealed later. That will be revealed later. What I'm trying to illustrate, and by making these points, is Srila Prabhupada is not from this world. He's from the spiritual world. He even said, one time in one of his lectures, a couple times he said, I can still remember when I was 6 months old, I was sitting on the lap of my auntie and she was knitting. I can still remember. Can you remember what you did when you were 6 months old? Can't remember what we did when we were 6 years old. But Prabhupada, he could still have that vision. This was Prabhupada. And what I'm trying to say is that he came as a messenger from the spiritual world to bring this Hare Krishna movement around the world. And he was very successful. And by Prabhupada's, spiritual power and his grand intelligence, he was so intelligent how to do it. The movement is spreading now. Temples are opening. In India, every year there's a new temple opening. Books are going out. Devotees are being made. This movement is spreading more and more. We need to put a little energy into Chicago here and get it back to... Chicago used to be one of the most powerful temples during Prabhupada's time. There was more than 150 devotees inside the temples at that time. And we can recreate that again, because the same energy is there. The only thing is now Prabhupada is conducting the movement from a distance. He's personally here in his deity form. There's one story where devotees had opened up a temple in South Africa, somewhere in one of the countries. And they had brought in a Murti of Prabhupada, and they had to go through immigration. So when they came to immigration, the immigration officer said, let me see the papers. In other words, the papers that allow you to bring him in. They didn't have the papers. So the immigration people said, okay, you have to get these papers. In the meantime, you can put your deity, or your teacher, they said your teacher, into our storage room. So they had a storage room, and Prabhupada was in the storage room. And so after 2 days, the immigration people called the devotees. They said, he wants to get out. He keeps saying, get me out of here. Get me out of here. So Prabhupada was talking, and the immigration officers could hear it. And Prabhupada, he didn't like being put in the storeroom. So, of course, they came, and then they took Prabhupada. So that story is narrated in one book by my godbrother Rita, where he talks about Prabhupada in South Africa. So there are many, many, many interesting stories. Devotees wanted to sometimes see what was Prabhupada doing when he was in private. So one time, I think he was in France, and Prabhupada was in his quarters, and they had these big, beautiful, ornate doors, really carved wood, very heavy doors, and had a big keyhole. So the devotees decided to see what was Prabhupada doing. So they looked through the keyhole to see Prabhupada. But what did they saw? They saw an eye looking back at them. Prabhupada said, oh, you're watching me, but I'm watching you. So he knew what we were doing, although we didn't know he knew what we were doing. One time, Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and he was the Krishna Balaram Mandir, And Prabhupada had his quarters a little distance away, very close. And he would go every day, especially in the morning, to take part in the morning program. And he had a pair of shoes that he would leave right in front of his door where he was staying. And then when he would come out, he would put his shoes on, and then he would walk to the temple. And then when he'd come back, he'd stop by his door and take his shoes off and walk in his room. So this was going on. One devotee was watching. Okay, I'm going to get those shoes, he was thinking. So he went to Loi Bazaar in Vrindavan and found the exact same kind of shoes, same size. He said, now I'm going to make the switch. I'll have Prabhupada's remnants shoes. So he's all ready. Now he makes his, and then so Prabhupada comes out of his room, puts on his shoes, walks to the temple. He's all ready to make his move. And Prabhupada comes back, and this time, instead of taking the shoes off, he walks with his shoes in the room. Only when that time, and the devotee was thinking, he never does that. Next day, Prabhupada was giving class. He said, don't try to play tricks on your spiritual master. Chikalagada, he knew everything about us. If Prabhupada would look at you, you would think, oh my God, I hope he doesn't see what I'm, In other words, he could see you as you are, but he was not judgmental. He could look at you and know everything about you. But he wasn't judgmental. He didn't judge you. He simply was able to understand, just by looking at you, what you were about. He had that power. It was amazing how it happened to me when I was in New Vrindavan. He looked at me and I got scared. But that was a nice experience, of course. So the life of Prabhupada was really, really amazing. And how he spread Krishna consciousness around the world. He traveled around the world 14 times, opening up temples, of course, translating the Vaishnava scriptures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And then, of course, he put together Chaitanya Charitamrita. That was an amazing story, how the Chaitanya Charitamrita actually manifested. We had the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, where they were doing all of the work on Prabhupada's books in Los Angeles. It's still there. And there was about, maybe almost 200 devotees in that temple at the time. So Prabhupada had been putting out one volume of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it took them 2 months to do one volume. And that means to do the editing, the proofreading, the layout, putting the pictures, do the binding, and then the printing. So it took 2 months to do one volume. So now Prabhupada came to Los Angeles. He said, I have completed the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. I want you to finish it all in 1 month. So they were doing one volume in 2 months. Prabhupada wanted 15 volumes in 1 month. Can you imagine? He wanted 15 volumes printed in 1 month. And he was serious. He said, you do it. And Radhavallabha, he was the temple president, and of course, what's his name? Rameshwar Maharaj was there. They were besides themselves. And they were talking, Prabhupada's serious. How can we do 15 volumes in 1 month? We're doing one volume in 2 months. So they said, they made a deal with Prabhupada. They said, Prabhupada, we'll do it if you stay here for that 1 month. Prabhupada said, I'll stay. So he did. So they put the whole temple on 24-hour shift. In other words, they worked around the clock. The artists were doing their painting and eating and sleeping right where they were working. Everybody was doing everything 24 hours a day, and in 1 month they did the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. Amazing. 15 volumes. And you can see, if you read those books, how expertly it was done. It was amazing. So, well, of course, we also hear when someone would say to Prabhupada, that's impossible. When they asked him to do that, they said, Prabhupada, that's impossible. Prabhupada said, impossible? A word in a fool's dictionary. That's where that line came from. Maybe you'll hear that sometime. Prabhupada knew with the mercy of Krishna, anything is possible. Mukhan karoti vachalam, langu kudarate girim, yat kripa taraham vande, shirgurun dinatarino. By the mercy of Krishna coming through spiritual master, one can do amazing things, way beyond their ability. Why? Because it's Krishna. And when we surrender to Krishna, he works through you, and you get Krishna likes to give his power to his devotees. Devotees do wonderful things, and Krishna gives them the credit. But it's Krishna's power, Krishna's mercy that makes everything happen. Prabhupada one time they asked Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya took Krishna consciousness all through the subcontinent of India. He made India practically all Krishna consciousness when he was there. And then they said to Prabhupada, why didn't he just take it around the world? And Prabhupada said, he left it for me to do. He left it. So he's leaving it for us to do it also. You can do wonderful things. All you have to do is say, my dear Lord, whatever you want me to do, I'm ready to do it. And then you start your process, and Krishna, when you perform your activities, all of a sudden things start to happen. It's Krishna. It's Krishna. Krishna is the force behind everything. It's his mercy that makes everything happen. But it's up to us to come to Krishna, to our spiritual master, and say, how can I serve? And to have the opportunity to serve is a wonderful opportunity, because it's the opportunity to make the solution to all problems of life. Krishna consciousness is way beyond this material energy. It's completely transcendental. And you can fulfill all of your desires, just like I had one devotee. He's a friend of mine. He's looking for a wife. He can't find one. He meets one girl, they get together, and then that's the end. He meets another girl, and he gets together. That's the end. So he's talking to me. And a third girl, same thing. His parents want him to get married. He's Gujarati. So I said, stop looking for women and just serve. He said, all right. So he did. He actually took my advice, and then all of a sudden a very nice girl came into his life, and now it's working. So what am I saying? That when you serve Krishna, Krishna takes care of you. Even with your material considerations, Krishna says, oh, this devotee is serving me nicely, but they want this. All right, so I'll give them this. They want this situation. They want this arrangement. That's Krishna. He likes to serve his devotees. And the devotees don't ask for anything. All they ask is that, how can I serve? And then when Krishna sees you actually really want to serve, then he opens the door. And devotees do the most amazing things. The most amazing things. So Srila Prabhupada taught us that, with the mercy of Krishna, everything is possible, and without the mercy of Krishna, everything becomes difficult. So Krishna's mercy simply comes when we chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Golokera, Prema Dana, Harinam Shankirtan Ratin Jan Milo Kena Upai, that this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not part of this world. It's coming from the spiritual world into the hearts of the great souls who have dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord, and they take that mantra and they spread it everywhere. And then, therefore, the whole world becomes benefited by the pure devotees who take Krishna's mercy and spread it everywhere. So that's Srila Prabhupada. There's many, many wonderful stories. I could tell you some really wild stories of Prabhupada. Would you like to hear a wild story? I mean, really, really wild. I mean, wild in the sense that it doesn't fit into any logic. That's the logic. So one time Prabhupada was Prabhupada's practicality was beyond our ability to understand. He was very practical. So one time, am I taking too much time for this class? I don't know. No, we're okay? So one time Prabhupada was in Hawaii, and then the devotees came and said, Prabhupada, your toilet in your room is not working. Prabhupada said, get it fixed. So after some time they came back to Prabhupada, the toilet's fixed. Prabhupada said, did you try it? Prabhupada said, it's fixed. I mean, they said, it's fixed, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, no, did you try it? Well, Prabhupada, it works. Prabhupada said, come on. So he went into the kitchen, and he made some chapati dough, and he started rolling it into balls, and he said, here, you put this into the toilet, and then you flush it. And they're thinking, what is this? But anyway, they did it. And then and then they came back and said, Prabhupada, it works. Okay, Prabhupada said, yeah. Good. That's as practical as you can get. You know, when you were Prabhupada, you never know what was going to happen next. It was always a surprise. Sometimes you didn't like it, but sometimes it was just beyond your ability to understand. Oh, if I can remember. One time Prabhupada came into New York, and they brought a Vyasa-san into the airport. They took the Vyasa-san out of the temple and brought it into New York to greet Prabhupada when he came in his flight. And so he's sitting on his Vyasa-san, the devotees are around him, and there's kirtan going on. There were some reporters there. So one reporter, he was a little envious of Prabhupada. So he expressed his envy in the form of a question. He said, why do you have to sit on that fancy seat? Now, Prabhupada could have answered that in so many ways, but he chose to answer it. And he said, the difference between you and me is I can be in a room full of naked women and not be disturbed. He said that to and the colleagues of all of the reporters, they start laughing, at the reporter because Prabhupada really put him in his place. So Prabhupada wanted to say that, I'm actually Krishna's representative in this world. I'm not like you. Sometimes he would put himself forward so we could understand actually who he was. And he was very practical. One time he was in Denver. If you know the Denver Temple, there's a lawn outside. And it was in the middle of July. It was really hot. Prabhupada was sitting on the lawn, and one devotee had a peacock fan. He was fanning Prabhupada. And it was right near the street where people would walk. So one man, he saw that. He came up to Prabhupada and he said, why is this man fanning you? And Prabhupada said, because it's hot out. Oh. So he was again trying to criticize Prabhupada for accepting service in that way, but Prabhupada just took it in an ordinary way. So you never know what he was going to say next. if you tried to guess what Prabhupada was going to do next, you were always wrong. You were always wrong. Even if you knew how he did things, when you tried to guess, he did something different. It was always like that. So to be around Prabhupada was amazing, though. When people, when Prabhupada was there, the energy in the room just transformed. The energy just came to one place, and everyone was just focused on Srila Prabhupada. He was small. He was only 5 feet 4 inches tall. He wasn't big. But he had such Shakti, such energy, that when Prabhupada was around, everything was, centered on Srila Prabhupada. So, of course, his greatest contribution is, excuse me, his books. He gave us his books once. One time, somebody asked Prabhupada, how can we associate with you once you leave? That was a question, difficult question. And Prabhupada said, I'm in my books. You read my books. I'm not different than my books. You can associate with me through my books. So one day, I was here in Chicago. I used to live upstairs, somewhere up there, on the 3rd floor. That room is still there. I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and I was reading it for about 2 hours. And all of a sudden, when I was reading, something happened. I was no longer reading the words. The words were being spoken to me from the pages as I was reading it, and I was hearing Prabhupada's voice speak the words as I was reading. It was like listening to a recording of the same words I was reading. It was amazing. And I said, I'm hearing Prabhupada while I'm reading what he's writing at the same time. And then it stopped. And it never happened again. But that one time, he said, yeah, I'm in my books. I told you. None different than my books. So if you read Prabhupada's books, not only do you get the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, the knowledge of Krishna, but you get to associate with Prabhupada directly. He created this movement. There are many Vaishnava movements, but this ISKCON movement is Srila Prabhupada's handmade movement. It follows all of the traditions of Vaishnava culture, but he added many things, such as in India, generally women and men don't reside in the same temple. Women live outside and then they come visit in temple. Well, Prabhupada knew when he came to America he couldn't do that. He said, men and women, they freely associate with each other, and he wasn't about to try to change the social culture. He said it's just impossible. So he gave women equal status within men, within the temples, within the society, within everything. And he also said the women are just as good as the men, but don't try to find out. Don't try to find out. So Prabhupada was like that. And of course, he made that change. And he got criticized for allowing women, giving equal status within the process. But then he understood this is how this culture is. And he said, I have become successful because I made that adjustment. I made that adjustment. So Prabhupada was not only a great philosopher, he was a great thinker on how to spread Krishna consciousness according to the country, the language, the culture, so many things that make up a society which were different from country to country, but Prabhupada cut through all of that and was able to spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. Now we have, how many countries? We're in more than 80 countries around the world now. Temples, preaching centers, restaurants, schools, and other forms of Krishna consciousness. It's spreading like wildfire. Because Lord Chaitanya predicted that every town and village my name will be chanted. And he told us when we were here, he said, we can make the whole world Krishna conscious in 18 days. He said that. He said, but you're not ready. He said, you're not ready. But what he said, that the Lord Chaitanya wants the whole world to become God conscious. And that will happen in due course of time. And we can take credit by being an instrument to bring that about. It's a great time in history. It's one of the most important times in history. We're at a precipice now where the world is really going through a lot of turmoil. But Krishna consciousness is also spreading very, very fast. So people in general are struggling to find some way to live their lives now. It's becoming very, very difficult. And Prabhupada, one of the things that he asked us to do, he said, get farms. Get a farm community. He said, for every city temple, we should have a farm. We keep cows. We grow our own food. We live close to nature. He said, these are for the families. The brahmacharis, the sannyasis, they're mobile. They can live anywhere. The grihastas need a stable environment to raise children, to raise their family, to live their life. He said these farms are ideal. And that's what, when Prabhupada was leaving the world towards the last days of his life, the devotees asked Prabhupada, do you have any lamentation? Is there something that you didn't accomplish? He said, yes. He said, I have one. And they said, because you have not finished Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, no, because I have not established Varnashram Dharma. And he said, the only place that can be established is in these farms. So he said, for every temple, there should be a farm community. He said, open up a restaurant, grow food on your farms, bring milk products from the farms, make nice prasadam, and people will come and taste nice prasadam, and they'll become devotees, simply by prasadam. Yeah. So Prabhupada had a vision to spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. And he wanted these rural communities to be the foundation for our lifestyle, living simply back to God, back to the land, depending on cows. I was giving this lecture in Charlotte, North Carolina, a couple of years ago, and I was talking about cows, the benefits of cows. And one person who lived in India, and he was living in a village, he said, we had a cow, and she was like part of the family. And when someone in the family would get sick, they would go to the cow and whisper in her ear that this person is sick. The cow would go into the fields, look for the herb that would cure that disease. She would eat it, they would milk that cow and give it that milk, and that person would get cured. Yeah. And then when I heard that, it was quite amazing to me. And then I mentioned that in another lecture, and one person said, it's not only like that, but you don't even have to tell the cow. She knows. She knows if you keep her as a family member, close, she actually develops a relationship with everybody. It's more than a pet. It's actually a family member. And she knows, and she doesn't even have to be asked. If you get sick, she'll go out and eat that herb. So these cows are really amazing. Cows are actually God's gift to human culture. So Prabhupada wanted these farms. He said for every city temple, there should be a farm community. And then he said, the food you grow on your farms is 100% more nutritious than what you buy in the stores. And then he said, grow your own food, make your own cloth, learn herbs and learn how to make medicines. You don't need doctors anymore. I'm sorry if there's any doctors here. And then the last thing he said, build your own homes. When I was in New Vrindavan, Prabhupada came and he sat us down and he drew on a piece of paper a house with a pencil. And he said, make a house like this. And he drew the actual structure, very simple. And he said, then people can live nicely. Simple cottages. enough for a family of 4, like that. So Prabhupada's vision was not just giving philosophical knowledge. He wanted to teach us how can we live in such a way that we can live healthily, prosperous, and have enough time to practice Krishna consciousness. He said, that can only be done in the form, and he said, especially for the grihastas, those who have family, those who have children. Of course, this is a big topic, and I wrote one book. I'm sorry I didn't bring the book with me because I ran out. It's called Krishna's Way, Natural Living, Back to the Land. So we should maybe take a look into this lifestyle, because we're seeing, and it's happening, the social, political, economic structure is quite precarious around the world now. And at any time, things could collapse. And Prabhupada actually said that. He said it in 1973. He said, in 50 years, this Western civilization will be finished. You can actually hear that on tape, Prabhupada said. He said it's going to be finished. Why? Because it's based on the wrong premise. What's the premise? Not on family values, not on social, on human values, not on aesthetic values, not on morality, not on spirituality. It's based on one thing: money. If you have money, you're in. Money is the honey, right? Everyone is chasing money. The money is Lakshmi. And if you get Lakshmi without Narayan, you get Durga. You don't get Lakshmi. In other words, you get pain, suffering. So when money is used in the service of the Lord, then that money becomes an opportunity for spiritual advancement. But when it's used for sense gratification or individual selfish purposes, it becomes destructive to those who use it. And of course, now everywhere in the world, everyone wants money, right? Money. Money's the honey. Well, but there's always bees around the honey, though. So, yeah, money is very important for doing things, but real values are spiritual values, cultural values, personal values. These are the things that make human culture human, and also help one to become transcendental, in other words, God conscious. So Prabhupada, he took apart this whole Western civilization and showed all of the flaws. And he said we need to go back to a more Vedic culture where people lived accordingly. And he said this way we live now, one devotee was saying to Prabhupada, there's so many problems in the world. Prabhupada was saying there's so many problems in the world. And this one devotee was saying, yes, Prabhupada, since time immemorial there's been so... Prabhupada said, no, it's only the last 350 years. There's been so many problems with this Western, what we say, industrial society that's made life so abominable. You can't even do anything anymore. The food is bad, the air is bad. You go into your homes, you got EMF everywhere. We're being attacked every minute. So Prabhupada said, go back to a more natural lifestyle. Anyway, I don't want to get off my song and dance here, because this is what I've been preaching for years, the last couple of years, trying to encourage devotees to look towards a more natural lifestyle. Keep the temples. The temples are important. They bring people in. We worship the deity. It's very important. But Prabhupada said we need a lifestyle that's conducive to both spirituality and human culture. And you can't find that in today's developed Western civilization. Okay, I don't want to take up too much time. Any questions? Comments? Suggested retractions? Anyone? It's about Srila Prabhupada.
Maharaj, can you please narrate one of your dealing with Prabhupada.
One of my stories with Prabhupada?
Yes, your personal story.
That'll take too long.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I cooked for Prabhupada one time and he liked it. I made some pita, and he ate 3 of them in a row. So he liked my para, and that's why I'm still here. I got some special mercy. And that was one of the few times that I actually had his association. I was always in New Vrindavan. Prabhupada was always traveling. I came to Chicago in 1995, but before then I was New Vrindavan from when I first joined. So I didn't really travel so much. And Prabhupada he only came to New Vrindavan at least 2 or 3 times during that period. I think it was, of course, even before I got there. But when I was there, he came in 74. I met him in 75 again, in 76. But that was all. So, but for me, Prabhupada was his books, was his devotees. Whatever I learned from his books and from his devotees. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj, thank you for such beautiful Prabhupada Katha and your profound realizations that you shared. Maharaj, we heard from you that we should be able to go to Guru, go to Guru or Krishna, and we should be able to say that, how do I serve you? Srila Prabhupada also, he says that every time whenever I saw my Guru, I always would ask, how do I serve you? Or whatever letters I wrote, I would only ask this question. And we also are chanting every day, right? And we are also saying, Krishna, engage me in your service. We are chanting, but why is there hesitation to go to Krishna or go to even Guru and say, please engage me the way you would like me to? Why is that? Even after, chanting so much?
Well, it mentions in Nectar Devotion that one should take shelter of spiritual master. One should eventually get initiated by a spiritual master. One should inquire from a spiritual master. And then also it mentions that one should at once say, how can I make further advancement? One should approach their spiritual master and ask, how can I make more advancement? How can I improve my Krishna consciousness? If we think we can do it without the help of the spiritual master, or at least someone who is senior to us, we actually engage in mental speculation. Because we'll choose whatever we like to do. But sometimes we're given something that we need to do, although it may be a little bit difficult. But that's good. It says that if you accept some difficulty to execute devotional service, you get more material, you get more spiritual benefit, because you have to make some sacrifice. So, but we avoid that. We don't want anything that we don't want to do. So he might say something like it says, the spiritual master must test the disciple just to check the sincerity of the disciple before the disciple gets initiated. Just like I was with one lady in London. She was aspiring for one spiritual master. And she wanted initiation. He said, well, before you get initiation, you should spend 1 year living in the temple. And she did it because it was his request. And she told me later, she said it was the best year of my life. So many times we get instructions that she said at first it was difficult for me to accept, but then I thought, that's what he's asking, I should do it. So a lot of times we're a little hesitant because we don't think it's necessary. We think, well, I'm okay. I know what to do. But that's the voice of the false ego. Thank you. Good question. Anyone, any of the ladies have any questions? Okay. Should we stop here? No questions? You can also make a comment. Comments are allowed. Questions. I'm trying to inspire some discussion. It's nice when you get discussion going. You learn more from the questions than you do from the class. Yes, Mataji over here. Oh, okay. Bhagavan Chaitanya has it, but you give it to the lady in the pink. Okay.
Thank you for a very wonderful class. You said that Prabhupada said this civilization won't last after 50 years.
The way it is.
And then you mentioned the reasons, the different kinds of values on which it should be based. It's not based on that. So you said it's not based on family values, moral values. So can you elaborate on the family values and moral values which we can go back to, which we have lost?
Well, a lot of these things are written in Srila Prabhupada's books, but mostly it's there in his lectures. Morality is the basis of spirituality. Now, morality is up for question. People redefine morality accordingly. But morality cannot be redefined. Therefore, Prabhupada gave us a principle. He said, you should follow these 4 principles. No illicit sex, that means no sex out of marriage, and only in marriage for procreation of children. No intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling. He said if you follow this, then you're on the platform of morality. He said these are the pillars of all sinful activities. So he gave us the restrictions which helps us to avoid activities which are immoral, or you might say sinful. Family values means values that work together where the family takes on a responsibility to become Krishna conscious. In other words, the mother's there, the father's there, the children is there, but the goal is to unite everyone to serve the Lord, to learn about the Lord. So it says in the scriptures that one should not become mother, one should not become father, one should not become guru, one should not become teacher unless they can deliver their disciples, their children from the cycle of birth and death. In other words, to put yourself in a position of being responsible for others is a great responsibility. And if you fail in that responsibility, you get a reaction for that. So yeah, family values are important because we should live according to what is beneficial. In other words, to sum up the answer, the mode of goodness. Not the mode of passion, not the mode of ignorance, but the mode of goodness, which are kindness, knowledge, education, the finer things in life, pious activities, doing welfare work. No cheating, no lying. These are qualities of the mode of goodness, like that. So these are values that make up human culture, real human culture. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Ruslan. Ruslan was here when I joined in 1995.
Yes.
He's still
Hare
here.
Krishna.
Good.
Thank you, Maharaj. The experience that you have described when you were here in the temple, it's a miraculous experience when you were reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and all of a sudden, the sound
Of Prabhupada's
emanated, voice of Srila Prabhupada emanated from the books. I have some of the similar experience also happened here in Chicago. It somehow resonates with mine, But in the morning, Shri Shri Kishore Kishore Ki Jai. I love sometime to come to Mangalartik, and I love chanting after Tulsi Puja here. This is the best time, I think.
Well,
So
Ruslan is saying, if you can't hear him, he said he had the same experience that I mentioned, that he was reading Prabhupada's books and he could hear Prabhupada's voice reading the words.
I have a slightly different experience, but it's also like about the sound. When I was chanting Hare Krishna mantra, we chant and we pronounce it with our mouth. But all of a sudden, I have experienced that I was not pronouncing the sound of Hare Krishna mantra with my mouth. Instead, the sound was coming from my heart.
Yeah.
And it somehow resonates with the experience that you have described.
Well, the soul sits on the heart, so when it's coming from the heart, that means you're chanting from the soul, which is the essence of chanting. Okay, it seems like devotees have to go, so I don't want to take up too much time. And so we can stop here. Bhagavan, I'll answer your question later.
Of course.
Okay?
Of course.
He's my personal friend from Farmington Hills. Welcome Bhagavan, he's a wonderful devotee. Bhagavan Ki. He loves to dance.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you very much for coming tonight, and so keep coming and then think, how can I serve? What can I do to help push on Prabhupada's movement? What can I do to make the temple even more wonderful? And any service, doesn't matter what it is appreciated, because service is absolute. It doesn't matter what it is, it's the desire to serve that Krishna sees. So again, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Shri Candramauli Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
You got the cookies?
Maharaj, I just wanted to thank you. And I'll be traveling tomorrow morning because a friend of mine is very sick. So please say a prayer for her. Her name is Vaishnavi.
Okay. You're traveling with her?
No, I'm traveling to see her. She's in the hospital
Oh, where?
in Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, I hope everything works out.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Yeah, we're all going north to...
Hare Krishna. For those devotees who are not observing Nirjala Ekadashi, we have prasadam arrangements downstairs. Prasadam is there downstairs, so devotees can proceed. Those who are not doing Nirjala Ekadashi.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Prasadam will be serving downstairs. Please come there. Hare Krishna.